Well, here we go, next episode. So it's the next weekend. Quite a few things happen this weekend. And the weekend's not even done yet, so there'll be a few more things I do and add to the end of this video. So we have the drivetrain out. Removed it all in one assembly. I got to run up to good old Harbor Freight and buy another moving dolly so I could put it underneath the front. So hopefully I can kind of get this thing somewhat supported and get it to where I can get it out of the way and be able to pull my car in until I can get the V8 in, and then I can start taking this apart and get it up on the stand so we can kind of see what happened with the mud. A few things I did notice pulling it off is apparently I have some seepage there where the dipstick goes in. So that was pretty interesting. The little cover, I don't know why they put this little stupid plate on there because it doesn't even cover up the entire opening, but there are no access to the torque converter bolts through that. But I'm assuming some water probably got in there. Who knows if that did anything, but we'll see when we tear this thing apart. I pulled it out with the engine mounts still attached to the block. This side wasn't too bad getting the bolts out, but let's go over to the other side where we had a little bit of a pain in the butt. I'll say butt because of making this somewhat of a G-rated channel here. So these three bolts are not fun to get to. I really wish I could have taken this line off, but I could not get my hand anywhere inside this thing to get this nut off. I can't even imagine what GM would charge for an AC compressor replacement, but unless there is some crazy tool to get in there, I don't know how you're getting that thing off. So I ended up being able to pull it with it attached. I was a little worried about that. For those that want to see, this is where the oil filter is that everyone complains about. I have no idea why, because I actually like this because I can fit a socket in there pretty easy and my hand actually fits in there. Pull it out. When I was diagnosing, it was nice because I could pull this out and not lose any oil to kind of check and see how the filter was doing. But yeah, this bolt actually wasn't too bad from the top. You just needed a U-joint, and I was able to kind of come down with a ton of extensions and get that one. This one here was actually the hard one. This one wasn't too bad. I bent this up so I could fit a socket on there. But yeah, that was pretty much it. The trans cross member wasn't too bad. I ended up having to take the mount off. I had it on for a while, but as I was pulling it out of the top, I did not want that to do any more damage than it already did. This thing was not easy to get out as a full assembly. If I were to do it again, I probably would take the transfer case off. That probably would have helped. One of the big issues I had was I could not find a single spot to attach my lifting chains. So I ended up having to use a tree strap, but hey, it did the job. So I'm not going to complain. But yeah, here's the back of the engine for those that are curious. These are the, there's the transmission breather line right there. Here's the transfer case. That's actually pretty similar to the Silverado setup. So if we go over here, there's the breather lines for that. So the ZR2, and I'm sure the Colorado is probably the same way. At least the 4x4. I don't know what the two-wheel drive things do, but yeah, so that's where the breather lines are. If those of you that were curious. Other than that, really didn't know too much stuff with this. Pretty straightforward pulling this out. You could see that's pretty muddy. But my big issue is I'm doing this all by myself, so I actually got this by myself, which, reflecting, I'm still kind of wondering how I did that. But here we go. Here's the engine bay with no drivetrain. So yeah, pulling that thing out, trying to get it high enough to kind of tilt it, to kind of get everything out, was proving to be quite the ordeal. The main thing was that cross tube back there that is non-removable. That's why I think if I would have do this again, I'd probably pull the transfer case, because the transfer case kept getting hung up on that. I actually tore the seal, finally getting it to clear that so it would actually drop and allow me to kind of pull everything out. Other than that, the big issue was pretty much just getting it high enough for that and to clear the oil pan. I'm mocking up my oil pan I bought, so let me pull this out for a second. But yeah, getting the stock oil pan, which sits down in here, it's pretty deep, getting it up over that while trying to angle that down pretty much had me mashing into the top here. I don't think I broke anything. There was making some pretty wild noises. I ended up taking off this line. I've seen people not take off this AC line, but I did not want to risk crushing that, because that is going to be reused. Other than that, there's where the 3 bolts were that were a little hard to get to, but not too bad. I did have to remove the steering shaft, which actually is a nice little setup. It's actually hinged there. It kind of sits in there like that. So I'm hoping it clears some, maybe doing some shorty headers for the Silverado. My big thing is what it does, what the exhaust will do when it goes down there for the front drive shaft. But yeah, that actually did not go too bad once I got that removed. That AC piece did clear right here. It did kind of pull this up a little, and I kind of had to kind of pry it around this thing, but that was pretty much the least of the issues. I did take the heater core lines off just in case. I did not want to catch those. Other than that, the shifter mechanism, for anybody that wants to know, actually is ran between the transfer case breather and the transmission. So if you do not push that up and kind of loop it around that breather, you will start pulling that. So I caught that and ended up was able to kind of fish it up there and do it before I actually pulled the cross member. But just to inform you, that is something you're going to want to be wary of if you ever pull that. I almost thought I had bent that, but apparently that's how it's designed. But yeah, so got it. Did a few nicks right here. That was from me trying to get that transmission and transfer case over, which is one of the reasons why I removed the mounts, because I started hitting this, because I ended up having the engine pretty high just because of how I had the weight distributed, sorry. And another thing was as I was lifting it, I actually ran out of height and was hitting my garage door. So that took a little finagling, but I got it. And my intention is to probably just do like a tape line here on both sides. And then I'll probably just paint that black just to kind of clean up some of these little nicks. Not really too worried about it, just to mainly freshen it up a little. I'm pretty sure, I think this is actually covered by one of the trim pieces, but I don't remember now. But yeah, I'll just paint that black, no big deal. But other than that, we're doing pretty good. My intention is tomorrow to kind of clean up, you know, get the tools kind of out of the way, get this stuff out of the way, clear out some of my kind of storage underneath there, just kind of rearrange some stuff, get it to the point that I could actually push this thing out of the garage. So my intention is to push it out probably about halfway, and then give this whole engine bay a really good power wash. Probably shoot a bunch of degreaser in here. Just kind of get all this mud kind of cleaned up. For those that don't know my last couple of episodes, I do have to re-gear. Well, not necessarily re-gear, but I do have to rebuild this front transfer case, or I'm sorry, front differential. You can kind of see that's still loose. Actually, it's going in and out too. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that's loose. But yeah, so once I kind of power wash this out, my intention is to probably tomorrow, depending on how long it takes me to clean this, I'll probably pull the fill plug, because I think if there's water in there, it's likely separated by now. I mean, this has been sitting for a couple months now. So if that's got water in it, it'll have separated, and the water will, I'll get something pouring out of there and be able to tell if it actually has water in there. So I'll do that. I probably won't pull that out until I kind of just double check this oil pan clearance, because that's pretty much the main thing your oil pan is going to hit for the V8. So once I kind of clearance that and make sure this oil pan is going to work, it better, because I mean this thing's not cheap. But if my calculations are correct, I think that is about where it's going to sit. And I have plenty of clearance down in there once it's, you know, lifted up, actually attached to the engine. This kind of just sitting down, so it actually sit a little higher than this. But yeah, it looks like I'm going to clear. Kind of my big concern would be the oil filter. The oil filter will sit right in here. I may have to mock that up a little once I kind of get the actual final location. My intention is to probably pull the, not pull, but put the, kind of set the transmission where it's going to go. I know where the oil pan sits in relation to the transmission, so I can kind of use that to reference if this oil pan is going to clear, what my oil filter location is going to be like. Should I remote mount that? Not sure where I would do that. I do have to get some type of an adapter. I haven't purchased that yet, because if it doesn't look like the oil filter is going to be convenient, I might do AN lines off of that, and then come up over and do the oil filter maybe up in here somewhere. And then that way I can run those lines to the cooler and kind of just have the filter in the cooler loop. And then I wouldn't need the sandwich plate. I would have to get another adapter. So kind of holding off on that until I make sure my clearances are good. I do have the sandwich plate I intend to use kind of picked out. But yeah, it looks like our pan is good. Just kind of want to verify before I actually silicone this thing in. Not sure if I could return that if I do have an issue with it, but I could probably sell it and recoup some cost if it does not work. But my intention is to kind of do this without having to rely on any type of fab shop, as I do not weld aluminum. I actually don't weld at all, but I intend to practice a little because my Intention is to actually weld the exhaust for this. I'm still kind of toying around with exactly what I'm going to do as far as the exhaust. I'm trying to get in some Silverado groups to get a couple dimensions, because the pictures that I've seen, I'm thinking that inside frame to inside frame might be pretty close to the Silverado, to where if I buy a Silverado Y-pipe and headers, I might actually clear the frame. It's just the exhaust would obviously be longer on the Silverado. But hopefully someone answers me and gives me some dimensions, because that would be really nice if I could get at least the Y-pipe to the catback as a Silverado piece and not even have to do anything to it. It'd also be really nice for anybody that wants to do this swap in the future. But we'll verify that. We'll get that documented as far as what is needed for that. Pretty much removing everything that was needed to pull the drivetrain actually was not too bad. I don't know if I'm trying to remember my last episode, but yeah, pulled the fuse box. That was pretty easy. Everything plugs right into the fuse box. These are all the plugs. There's a couple screws that kind of actually cinch them tight. Pulled the battery. I just pulled the battery just to kind of get more room, get this stuff kind of out of the way. Plus, I didn't want to risk something touching the battery and end up charging something. But yeah, so that's all out. Whole intake's out. Those that always do the second battery, yeah, there's plenty of room under there. That's where the ECM and TCM were mounted. I removed those prior to the engine removal, because I was just seeing how big they were compared to the new ones going in, and they're the exact same. The ECU is an E92 Silverado ECM, but it's the same size, and the transmission TCM is actually the same exact unit, probably just programmed different for the 8L90. But yeah, pretty much my only real issues are, let me pull this out again. I'll kind of show you. Okay, so here's that breather line. This thing's so muddy I can't even see where that actually attaches to. But it is definitely not attached. So we'll figure that out as we tackle a rebuild of that, which I'm actually re-gearing. I'm going to go to 410s. I might as well, if I'm going to tear that thing apart. But I'll probably have a little video kind of showing that. I'm going to pull that thing completely out. Do it on the bench. Be a lot easier. Which means I'll also be re-gearing the rear. So, still kind of debating on how I'm going to do that. Probably be easier to do it in the truck. It'd be hard to kind of document, but we'll see. I'm going to pull that. I'm sorry, when I do the re-gear of the rear, my intention is I'm just going to basically rebuild that whole unit, throw new bearings, new seals, kind of just do the whole thing if I'm going to be tearing it apart, since I'm not really sure if water got in that one, but we'll see. So that's where we're at. I'll continue this video tomorrow. Actually, I'll probably do another episode because I'm already at almost 20 minutes now. So I'll kind of do another video of this all cleaned up and kind of just go over whatever I've discovered from tomorrow. All right, hope you guys enjoy this, and one day I'll get a little bit of production value and throw in some kind of time lapse of stuff, and maybe a little bit of opening and ending music and logos and all that kind of fancy YouTube stuff. But we'll see. We'll see what I come up with and how long it takes, because obviously this this project pretty much eats up any kind of free time I have on the weekends. So whatever I can save from making a video is more time I can use to kind of continue this project. So that's it for today.